Hey there, this is Jacob Griscom. Let's go ahead and get started with our webinar. We're going to cover some great stuff today. This webinar is called How to Start or Grow a Thriving Professional Ayurveda Practice, Essential Business Education for All Ayurveda Professionals. And let me show you why it's so essential. This is a chart that represented some surveys that I did when I first launched the Grow Your Ayurvedic Business program, actually when I first wrote it as a book. And at the time, the schools in the United States were graduating, about 400 students per year from certification programs. And certainly that number has increased over the years. But I think that the relationship between the number of students that were graduating and those that really go on to practice is a similar ratio. So in the United States, we were graduating about 400 students each year from the Ayurvedic institutions. And from those 400 students, only approximately 10% were going on to do something with their practice. So in other words, 90% would go on to do nothing with their practice. And of the 40 who do go on to do something, it's usually part-time work, while some other work or some other source of income actually pays the bills. And of those who do go into practice full-time, the expected annual income is only $25,000 to $30,000 per year, right? So not a real promising profession, and people don't typically get into Ayurveda because they're thinking it's a great business opportunity. But I want to start to change that perspective a bit, because these statistics came directly from a survey that I did when I was first launching this program, realizing the need for this training for Ayurvedic practitioners. And even though we're graduating more students today and more, ultimately there are more practitioners out there, this ratio is still pretty dismal, and we need to help improve it. So let me tell you a little bit about how I learned this stuff. When I was, 18 years old, I guess it was, right? Coming back from a year I'd studied abroad in Argentina with the American Field Service. So I was there for 13 months, my junior year of high school. And when I came back home, my little small town in Grass Valley, Nevada City, in the northern California Sierra foothills here, seemed really, really small to me. And I started to, explore some different concepts out there and get into some different stuff. And I happened to come across the book Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And I got really into these concepts of yoga and meditation. I also happened to come across a book called The Secret Life of Plants. But both of them really gave me a sense that there was a lot more going on beneath the surface that I could tap into. And so when I learned about Ayurveda, it was a natural fit to want to continue on and learn more about that after high school. So I did my Ayurveda training with the California College of Ayurveda, completed a clinical Ayurvedic specialist certification. It was a 2-year program with a 6-month internship. And I did that while doing some other associate's degrees. And then after that, went on to travel in India with my partner, Sarah. And we were there for 6 months studying with our mentor there, Dr. N.V. Krishnamurti, down in Mysore, India. Got a lot of awesome training. We got to do medical camps in remote villages, do rounds at the hospital, at the Ayurvedic hospital, see patients at his private practice at his home, go into the surgery center, really just get an incredible amount of experience besides being in India, which is such a different and interesting culture, and really a tremendous experience, outrageous place to go. But towards the end of that time there, we were there for 6 months, Sarah stopped being interested in South Indian food. She had had her fill of it, and I didn't think much of it. I didn't realize the implications of it until we got back home. And you'll see in this little picture here, these are my boys who are now teenagers and awesome athletes and cool people in their own right. But the bigger brother that you see there on the right, that was Ethan, and he had made his way into our into our life during our time there in India. And so I'm 21 years old, getting back to the United States after traveling abroad, just kind of trying to get my grounding. And all of a sudden realize, like, we're going to have this new family. I'm going to have some mouths to feed. I'm going to have to really figure out what I'm doing for a living. And so I decided I'd go for it with my Ayurvedic practice, and I'd really hustled because I knew that I needed to. I ended up doing some teaching at the California College of Ayurveda, some intern supervision, really a lot of stuff with the CCA, but put most of my practice on, or put most of my attention on building my practice. And I did what most new Ayurvedic practitioners would do. You know, I papered my community with flyers for free talks about Ayurveda, joined business networking groups. Everybody I talked to, tried to get them into this other approach to health, this idea, basically get them into Ayurveda and see if that passion could take hold in them like it did in me. But what I found, of course, was that it was really hard to get clients that way. I'd get some people to my talks, and I'd sign some number of them up as new clients, and every once in a while I'd have a client who really stay with me for a long time. But as a rule, I tended to just see a client for a one-off session, and then maybe I'd see him again, maybe I'd see him for a few follow-up visits, sometimes not. And it was really hard. I was always having to hustle and focus on getting new clients. And after a few years of that, I was able to pay our mortgage and our bills, but a lot of months just barely. And I had to borrow money from family. I was basically stressed about money all of the time, which was not cool for me, which was not cool for my family having to deal with me, and all of us, just not really feeling secure that we had what we needed. And on top of that, when you're in a state like that, it's a lot harder to really be present and grounded for the clients that you're supposed to be there serving. So all of that really came to a head, and I said, you know what, I gotta lay this down for a while. I think I need to go find a job and some steady pay. And what I happened to find my way into was not actually steady pay, because I found myself into sales and got a series of commission-based jobs. But the very first job that I got in sales was in a totally different industry. I was working for this aviation and electronics school, and we were selling certification programs to enlisted personnel in the military. So an audience I knew nothing about, a field that I had no experience or background in, and yet in my first month there, I was able to sell $500,000 in educational programs. Basically beat all of the previous records of this company that had been around for 20, 30 plus years, and quickly kind of ascended the ladder there at that company. And I found out, I was actually really good at sales, but I got my first big insight in business, and that was that these people were already looking for these certifications for a very specific reason. They wanted to get good jobs after they completed their time in the military. And since they were already looking for these, really our job was just to put it in front of them in a way that we could, accommodate their schedule, accommodate their needs, and make it happen for them, because it's something they wanted. They had educational benefits and GI Bill and ways to pay for it. So we basically just needed to be able to put it in front of them and provide it in a way that would work with their schedule. So that was really interesting, that if somebody was already looking for something and I could provide it to them, that sale became really easy. Now, I ended up, of course, leaving that school and went on to other sales and marketing positions, and continued to learn a lot, got a lot of mentorship from really great salespeople, and I learned to understand sales not in the way that we may have come into, or at least my concept around it, maybe it's yours too, that sales had to be a lot of like high pressure techniques and pushing people. But I found that it was actually much more about being a really good consultant, asking a lot of questions, especially high-end sales, major account sales. asking a lot of questions and being really useful to people, providing people with a lot of value up front before they really decided to go forward with a relationship. And so I was able to help grow some other companies and start some successful nonprofits in the sustainability space, and get some other experiences that were all really valuable to me. And I'm super glad that I did it. But the culmination of all of that was realizing that I had had amassed these skills that I could now apply back to my home turf in Ayurveda. And so I decided to start up a practice again, but this time implement some of what I had learned. So focus on an audience that was all ready for looking for something. And I decided, I was involved in some men's work at the time, and so I decided to focus on men and helping men who wanted to lose weight and have more energy and increase their libido. So interestingly enough, I didn't actually even talk about Ayurveda up front. I focused all on them, what they needed, what they wanted. And the result was that within a couple of months, I was able to build a $10,000 a month practice with just a handful of clients, and now a lot more leisure time, and a lot easier time, of course, paying the bills, but a lot more time with my family, with my grown boys. And it was a much more satisfying way to run my practice. Not only that, I worked with these people, these men, in group formats, as well as committed private coaching formats that allowed them to really make their health a priority and be in it for the long haul, and therefore get a long-term lasting results with changes in their behavior and therefore changes in their health. And so I took everything that I learned and I systematized that into the Grow Your Ayurvedic Business program. And that's really the essence of what I want to cover here with you today, is how those pieces fit together, how I teach this to practitioners, and how you can implement this in your practice as well. Whether you're just getting started or if you're already seeing clients, this is going to be really, I think, essential business education for you as an Ayurveda professional. So there's two aspects of building a successful business, a successful practice, and we can call those the outer and the inner game. So in the case of the outer game, I'm referring to actions. What are the specific actions or behaviors that you're going to need to take that are going to get you from point A to point B? There is a specific sequence of actions to take, and if you do those, you will consistently get results. So it's similar to working with somebody in the arena of health. If somebody's unhealthy right now, there are certain things that they're doing that are creating those challenges for them, and there are certain new actions that they're going to need to implement if they want to correct those imbalances and symptoms and get to a new result of health. So likewise with your business, there's going to be a sequence of actions to take that are going to get you where you want to get. Now the other side of the equation is what we could call the inner game, or your mindset, because to be able to take new actions, to be able to try new things out, even to be able to experiment, there need to be some factors in terms of what's going on inside of your mind that will allow you to take those outer actions. So looking at the inner game, the first thing I think is about this priority to serve. So, if you've gotten into Ayurveda just because it seems kind of interesting to you, or you're passionate about for yourself, or you think maybe you'll just use it with your family or something like that, then this program, this approach, this webinar, it's really not for you. This is more for people who get into Ayurveda because they want to use it to help transform the lives of the people that they're going to work with professionally. That you've got a priority to serve, that you feel like Ayurveda is what you need to be doing in the world. So if that's you, then this is really the first, I think, qualifying factor for a successful inner game for creating a successful practice. Because again, think about it, like, how are you going to create a successful practice if it's not really what you're about, if it's not really what you're into? So that first piece is a priority serve, an interest in being a servant and doing what you can to help people. The second is about having a scientist attitude, a willingness to experiment, a willingness to try new things, to get out there and really do the experiments. In other words, if it remains like a good idea or something that you're going to get around to it someday, obviously then you're not going to end up actually taking those actions, and then you're not going to get the results. So I recommend, if you can cultivate a quality of being like a scientist and saying, you know what, okay, great, this is the homework, I'm going to try this, I'm going to do it, I'm going to see what kind of results I get, then you're going to do well. Without that, again, it's something where you can get distracted, you can get infinitely delayed, and just never take the actions that are going to move things forward in building a practice. The next thing I think that's important is this idea of selling yourself first. You have to really kind of understand what it takes to change behavior. If you think about what we are as human beings, we started in this sort of unmanifest form. We were part of this ocean of consciousness, and then we're sent into a little tiny human body, a little bubble, and we've got this 9-month period where we're still swimming within this warm womb. The world is our bathroom. We're given plenty of all the food and water that we need. We don't have to find it for ourselves. We don't have to breathe. We don't have to do anything. We're still totally taken care of. Until a moment when we're cast out, we're thrust out. Now all of a sudden, we're this fragile, gentle thing, and we're having to kind of fend for ourselves. We're holding on to our moms, but we basically realize now that this is a tenuous situation. We are no longer in the position we were before. We've been individualized. And in fact, Ayurveda describes that as the root cause of all disease, is forgetting our true nature as spirit, is losing touch of that connection with that energy that's really keeping us alive, that's letting me speak even right now, that's letting you hear this. And so if you realize, what our behaviors represent, is that they're kind of a complex grouping of all the things that we've put together that help us just feel okay, that help us to kind of cover up that underlying turmoil of feeling, fragile and vulnerable, and to help us be okay. And you're getting into a field where you're going to be helping people change their behaviors. So if you think that that's something that can happen on a one-off visit, that somebody can come in and that you're going to tell them to dramatically alter something in their behaviors, even really something seemingly simple, and that they're going to be able to go out and do that without consistent, ongoing support, accountability, a structure to help to work through the obstacles that are going to get them there, then I don't know what to say about that, right? It's like, if you can check it out for your own life, you realize that any time that you've really made a significant change, it's happened because you've had a consistent support and consistent structure to do it. So that's the idea of selling yourself first. That's what your real value is about. It's not about your personality. It's not about becoming a guru or having to put forth that you're more enlightened than you are, or that you know more things than you actually do. Really, you're kind of irrelevant in the equation. Other than that, you're getting hired so that people can have a consistent structure of support and accountability in their life to keep their health a priority, to transform damaging behaviors into ones that are going to give them the results that they want. So that's the idea of selling yourself first. If you don't understand your value and your position in relation to the client, then that's a key piece of mindset that needs to be installed or understood really before you're going to be able to take the consistent actions that are going to get you there. Now this is the next thing, is feeling great accepting money. Feeling great accepting money for the work that you do. Now that can be kind of a hurdle for some practitioners I've seen, that you can feel uncomfortable when it comes to the idea of accepting money. There's two reasons that seems to be the case. One is that you simply don't have a well mapped out program, you don't have a well mapped out audience that you're focused on serving, and so understandably you don't feel really confident asking for money because the value of your offering is kind of sketchy. So until you have that offering really clear, until you really know the audience, and you have something specific that you're going to offer that where you're convinced of the value of it, then rightfully so, you probably should feel a little uncomfortable accepting money. But once that's in place, then you can feel great accepting money. And if there's any hang up about that still, then the second thing that seems to get in the way sometimes is the idea that accepting the money is just for you. Now, it certainly does, it pays your bills and allows you to do what you love and keeps the doors open, lets you have a great business, a great practice, a great career. But it's not just for you. If you think about it in your life, the way in our time and place, our culture, the way that we really say, I value something, and that our actions reflect that, is that we spend money on it. If you value your home, you pay your mortgage. If you value your car, you pay your car payments. You value eating and taking care of yourself, then you buy food, right? If you value disease management, then you make sure that you have health insurance and that your drugs can be taken care of. Of course, also for any injuries or surgeries or accidents, all that comes up. So likewise, when somebody invests in an Ayurvedic health program and they put money down, it's now basically saying, I value this. This is a priority in my life, and it helps them actually make the changes and follow through to get results. If somebody doesn't put that investment in, the likelihood of them really making it a priority is just so much lower because, again, in our culture, our time and place, that's really how we do it. We put money down to say, this is important to me. And finally, the last piece of your inner game that I think is really important is just as, you have ways that you've been doing things that help you feel okay. And I'm going to be teaching you some things today that are going to be new. And there are some things that might stretch you a little bit. Even these mindsets that I've just given you are probably, something in here is probably a stretch. And so if you can have a general willingness to get out of your comfort zone, a general willingness to grow, it doesn't have to be an appetite, but if it is an appetite, if you actually get passionate about getting out of your comfort zone and growing, then even better. But at least a willingness is going to be necessary. Otherwise, it's just too hard to get into new territory. So now let's go ahead and get into the outer game. And these, again, are the 5 steps of the Grow Your Ayurvedic Business system. So step 1, we call Map Your Market. Step 2, the Committed Client Formula. Step 3, the Sales Sadhana system. Step 4, Multiply Your Marketing. Step 5, Advanced Profit Growth. So I'm going to go into each of these in detail, and I'm going to use a format of a problem that a new or established practitioner typically encounters, like an obstacle that would sabotage their success, and how each of these steps helps to address that problem or remove that obstacle. So let's go ahead and jump in with step 1, Map Your Market. All right. When I ask, practitioners or students or something, what do you feel like is the biggest challenge with growing your practice or starting your practice? People say a lot of different things, but the thing that I hear the most that really kind of summarizes this mindset change and this strategy change is saying the problem is that people don't know what Ayurveda is. So in other words, people know what groceries are, so the grocery store has no problem getting people in through its store because people are already looking for that. But people don't know what Ayurveda is. Well, that makes sense, right? Nobody's waking up in the morning thinking, today I really need to get me some Ayurveda. And so if you as a practitioner, just like I was when I first set out there, are focusing on trying to get your community into Ayurveda, trying to get them to, come to your free talks about like an introduction to Ayurveda, it is going to be an uphill climb. You're going to be, paddling upstream against the current because you're going to be going against what people are actually looking for. So here's the solution in step 1. Address the needs of a niche market instead. Now, I'll explain a little bit more about what I mean by that. What I mean by that is that instead of thinking that your practice is about Ayurveda or about you, instead of making it about you or about your modality, make it about serving, again, serving the specific needs of a specific market. So a niche market could be people within a certain demographic group that have consistent problems and challenges. For example, you might focus on serving menopausal women and helping them with the changes that they're going through during that, those hormonal changes and the symptoms that come with that, the changes in their body, hot flashes, reducing bone density, maybe feeling more vata in the mind and scattered and spacey, right? You may focus on people who have a specific condition like diabetes or arthritis. You may focus on people who are struggling with, wanting to lose weight, to have more energy. People who are struggling with sleep issues. People who are struggling with pain issues. People who have anxiety or depression. People who are recovering from addiction. There's a free report that I give people called Attract Your Ideal Clients that lists 80 plus different niches, but basically anything that could kind of group people together. That's the idea of a niche. And if you focus on the needs of a niche market instead, then you're going to be speaking to an audience that can immediately respond to what you have to offer. They don't have to try to connect the dots for themselves and figure out what Ayurveda can do for them. You're telling them up front what you can do for them, that you can help them address such and such health challenge and help them get such and such result. So that is foundational. That's really the biggest single problem that practitioners face. And if you can address that one, then everything else flows a lot more easily. This is like building the foundation for a great house. But if you don't have this foundation, then the rest of the system is going to crumble. So the very first thing that I would have you do is to go through this process of determining, who's going to be your ideal niche. And there are a few things that can help you do this. One is you can think of, well, is there anything that you've used Ayurveda for in your own life? Do you have what I would call like a qualification story, a transformation story that you've gone through for yourself? If not that, do you have people that you've worked with or friends or family that have struggled with some condition or some grouping of health challenges that you're interested in addressing for that reason? Maybe there's something in your community that's really stood out to you. I spoke to somebody recently who lived in a community where there was a lot of pesticides and as a result a tremendous amount of breast cancer. And so because that was clearly a need in her community, she determined to focus on working with that niche and helping those people. So whatever it is, find that niche, and you want to be able to tell that story about why you want to focus on serving that market. Now the next piece is, once you know that market, now there are a lot of specific steps to take within that, but the essence of step 1 and the mindset there is switching from focusing on getting people interested in Ayurveda to focusing on being a servant for a particular market. Now, step 2 is called the committed client formula. And here's the problem that I mentioned in my practice in the beginning, and that I hear from practitioners a lot, is that it's hard to get what we call client compliance. It's hard to get clients to come back regularly. It's hard to get them to follow through with the recommendations that you give them. So I have two solutions to this particular problem. And the idea is to offer a long-term program with regular visits. So instead of thinking of your practice or this thing that you offer as these sessions, or even group, packages of sessions, think of it instead that you're helping people to walk a path. You're taking them from point A to point B, where they are right now. Like if somebody wants to lose some weight, maybe they're 30 pounds over the weight and they want to lose that 30 pounds. Well, that's point A. Point A is they're 30 pounds overweight. Point B, where they want to get, is that they want to have those 30 pounds off. All right. So that's not going to happen with a one-off visit. That's going to happen with a consistent program of regular visits and support over a period of time. So I recommend practitioners instead enroll people in committed programs that last 3 months, 6 months, 12 months at a time. I preferred working with people when I work with private clients. I work with my private clients for a year at a time because I know that over a year I'm really going to help them make a lot of movement. Just simply the structure of working together consistently for that time is going to help them get to their goals or exceed their goals or give them the best shot of getting them close to their goals. So if you think of it that way, instead of offering one-off sessions, then you're going to be doing yourself a service because the income model for this is a lot more consistent. You can have people pay up front for the entire term of the program and get some special pricing, or you can have them pay on a monthly basis. But either way, it's a much more consistent, reliable income model than one-off sessions. And not only that, but as we mentioned before, that level of commitment and consistency is really good for the client. It's what's going to help them get the long-term results. Now, the other aspect of this that I address in this system is the nature of those visits. What does it look like to be meeting with a person on a weekly basis? It's not just to keep on giving them more and more things to do. No, it's in fact to give them the one most specific behavior they need to change. So I run practitioners often through an exercise called a behavioral theory of change, where we look and see, well, what are the top specific behaviors that audience is involved in right now that's most likely creating the trouble for them, creating the issues for them. So if that person is 30 pounds overweight, what are all the different behaviors that they're probably involved in that are contributing to that extra weight? And what are the behaviors they need to change or to implement that are going to help them take those 30 pounds off and get where they want to get? All right. So there's going to be specific things that they're going to need to do that are going to get them from point A to point B. And amongst those specific things, there's probably one thing that's really the most important thing for them to start with. So in the case of weight management and energy with men and increasing their libido, I determined that the number one most important thing I wanted to have them do was what I call the metabolic mastery method. So in Ayurveda, it's this idea that you are going to eat 3 meals a day, that you're not going to follow the snack culture of America and just be nibbling throughout the day, not really sitting down to eat, but instead you're going to have 3 meals a day. You're going to just hydrate in between meals, but you're going to have your biggest meal midday, and you're going to have a light early dinner, and that light early dinner could get lighter and lighter based on your hunger levels. So as your blood sugar becomes more balanced, you could stretch that, and you're going to naturally boost your metabolism by working in harmony with the cycles of nature and really like human history. And so I determined, that was the most important thing I wanted somebody to start with. So each visit wasn't about giving them something else to do. It's more about helping them remove the obstacles to being able to do that one thing. So I call this integral Ayurveda coaching because it follows some of Ken Wilber's concepts of integral methodology. And the idea is that behavior is going to be the cornerstone of change, but for behavior to change, there's going to be some shifts in consciousness or mindset that are going to support that. There's going to need to be a shift in culture or relationships to support that. In other words, if somebody's in close relationships, and they're doing the exact opposite things or just have the exact opposite valuation for where the person wants to go, that's going to be an obstacle. And then the final thing would be their environment and their systems. Does their schedule reflect their new habits and priorities? Is their home environment, does their food cupboard reflect what they want to be putting into their body? If not, then that's going to be a constant source of struggle and an obstacle. So we want to make it as automatic as possible that these changes happen. And Integral Ayurveda focuses on removing the obstacles to make that behavior, more automatic and immediate for the person. So that's the idea of step 2, committed client formula. So once we know our market, step 1, now we can begin to determine the path that we're going to take people through and the nature of our coaching sessions, or the way that we're going to work with people to do that. All right, so let's go ahead and cover step 3. Step 3 is called the sales sadhana system. I use the word sadhana like it's like a discipline or like a practice of sales. And the problem that this addresses is, of course, getting clients to happily pay you money. So how does that happen? How does somebody actually go from like not interested to really interested to enrolled? Well, there is a particular process for that to happen, but it needs to be well thought out. And so I like to use an automatic system for your enrollment. And that system has to do with whether you're meeting people in person, or giving like a public talk, or you're at a networking event, that you have a first step. And that has to do with offering people some value up front. That's also what would happen from your website. You would give people something valuable up front, really like your most valuable information, the thing that you feel like is most going to help people. So in the case of working with those men, I would give them the metabolic mastery method. I gave it actually coupled to them in something I called the 1 hour morning plan. And I would give that to them up front so they could see up front that I had a really clear system and understanding of the issues that were happening for them, and was giving them something valuable. In other words, something they could take and they could implement, and they could give it a shot right away. And I wasn't concerned like I was giving away my best stuff and now they didn't need to hire me, but instead just basically giving up front and saying, hey, I want to give you my best, and start there. And so if it's a website, what you're trading for that most valuable piece of information is their name and email address. This is the way that you're building your email address and generating leads for you. Now the next thing that can happen in that automatic system, whether again that it's your next step with working with somebody in person that you're meeting in your community or at a networking event or one of your free talks, or that your website is doing it for you automatically, is after that value has been provided, you want to have them automatically put into your calendar so that you can have a very specific conversation that I call the sales sadhana. Now the sales sadhana is about being able to ask a series of questions that help people find their own motivation for really making a change in their health. Because again, if that motivation isn't there, it's not likely that they're going to sign on for a 3-month or a 6-month or a 12-month program. So the sales sadhana system is a series of questions that helps uncover that motivation. So we find out a little bit about their current situation, what are their problems with their health. We can kind of list them and understand them. But where motivation really comes from is exploring the implications of those problems. So, how long have those problems been going on? What kind of impact are those problems having, those health challenges having on their life, on their relationships, on their work, on how they feel about themselves? And when they look down the road, when they look 5 years into the future, 6 months into the future, where do they see themselves at if these health challenges aren't addressed, if they don't make a shift in their priorities? Where's this path headed? And if somebody has a health challenge that's real for them, it's been causing them trouble for a long time, it's causing them trouble now, it's having a significant impact on them in their life, and they're actually looking at that and being honest about that, checking that out, that is a tremendous motivator. And the idea that as they move forward in the future, that this isn't going to take care of itself, in fact, it's going to get worse if they don't do something about it, well, that's a tremendous motivator. So by asking questions about that, they get to assess their level of motivation. If it's not something that they really feel like is a problem, then you're probably not the person for them to connect with. They could go somewhere else. They could read a book on Ayurveda if they're just curious. they could start somewhere else. You want to be working with the people that are really ready to make some changes in their life. Now, here's the thing, is if you walk through this process, you'll find that a lot of people are actually really ready to make some changes in their life, but they haven't been asked these questions and they haven't really put the pieces together for themselves. They haven't been honest enough with themselves to feel their motivation. Now, you can also do the other side of things, which is to clarify with people, where do you want to get? What sort of results do you want to have with your health? And why would that be important to you? That's also a great motivator. Not by itself, but in conjunction with the problems and its implications. We call that like the need payoff. So where do you want to be, and why would that be important to you? What impact would that have on your work, on your relationships, on your life, on how you feel about yourself? So both of those are really strong motivators and entirely necessary before you're going to transition into talking about your program and how it can support them, and finding out if if they're interested in that level of support and making that enrollment. But if you know how to walk through that process, and I've mapped it out, step by step with each specific question that you need to ask, and the order that that's going to go in, then it becomes really easy to enroll clients. Again, you're not going to enroll everybody that you talk to, but you're going to enroll a lot of them, and you're certainly going to enroll enough to have a great private practice. So the fourth step, I consider steps 1, 2, and 3 like the essence of Grow Your Ayurvedic Business, because if a practitioner can do those, then you're set. You're in such a good position. You have established a niche for your practice, and so you're really known now as like the go-to person in your community for that market, or online if you're choosing to work with people more virtually and focus more on online elements to your practice. You have a clear program that's valuable that you can walk people through. You understand the nature of coaching, and it's a long-term game. You're in it for the long haul. It's not for one-off sessions. And you have a consistent system for generating new leads and enrolling those leads as committed long-term clients, whether that's in person or whether that's through your website, or most likely a little bit of both or a lot of both. But once you have those 3 in place, and that foundation is there, and again, I consider that a foundation because that's really all you need to have a great, consistent, thriving private practice. Right there, you're set. I've really described the essence of those 3 shifts in mindset and those 3 shifts in strategy that are going to give you what you need for a thriving practice. But there is certainly more that you can do. And step 4 is about multiplying your marketing. And so I kind of think that this addresses this problem that I hear from practitioners a lot, that I have tried advertising, I tried putting something in my local newspaper or my local holistic health magazine, and I just didn't get results. And I say, I understand. It's frustrating. You spent money, you didn't get much back, or it was hard to track what you were getting back. So step 4 is about addressing this problem of really wasting money on marketing that just doesn't work. And the solution is to use free and low-cost marketing materials that constantly bring in new clients. There are so many of these that we could focus on, but really, once you know the nature of your business, then you know who your market is, then it becomes a lot easier to focus on finding those people, because you just need to go where they're hanging out physically, or where they're hanging out online. And then any investment that you make in terms of time, money, or energy is going to pay you back a lot better than the approach of just throwing out Ayurveda out there into your community, putting an ad in the newspaper or on the radio, and just hoping that something sticks, hoping that somebody's curious enough. No, instead, if you have a really specific offer for a specific market, your response rate goes way up and you get a great return on your investment. And again, that investment may be money, it may be paid advertising, but it also may be energy or time or assets that you're creating that are bringing in new clients for you. So step 4, multiply your marketing. And finally, step 5, I call advanced profit growth. And now here's the problem here, is that a busy one-on-one practice may be exactly what you're looking for. You know, depending on your constitutional type, maybe you're a kapha who just loves the consistency and the routine, and you could do it day in and day out. And I've known people like that. We've got a chiropractor in our community that has been, doing it day in, day out, serving his community for longer than I've been on the planet. He's been around since like the 70s here, and he's just still doing it today, day after day. And he's got that really sort of hardy kapha constitution. He loves people. He's got a sort of teddy bear quality. If that's you, then you might be able to stop at step 3 and just do that indefinitely. But for me, I've got a lot more pitta, I've got a lot more vata, I need a lot more flexibility, I like a lot more leisure. And so step 5 is about ways that we can leverage our practice model, because a busy one-on-one practice is full-time, and it is a limited income. You're trading your time for money. And there's a limit to how many people you can see in your schedule. So the solution here is this idea of leveraging your time, income, and impact as well with groups and products and partnerships. So groups. Well, groups is the idea that if you're working with people in a niche, they already kind of have something in common with each other. So it's a natural next step to build community around that group of people and to work with them together in a group instead of just one-on-one. And now when you're working with people in a group, they can support each other. You can have a lot more fun building community, and you can charge each individual less, to be a part of the program, because collectively, that time per hour is making you a lot more. So, it takes a little bit to get group programs established, but it's one of the most powerful leverage strategies, and something I definitely recommend if you're looking to break out of the mold of just being stuck in a schedule. You want to have more flexibility to travel, more leisure, and time for other priorities in your life. Products are also really, really interesting. Now, products can take on a couple of forms. One is like physical products. So you might have herbal lines or books or Ayurvedic products that you sell out of a shop, out of your clinic, or online off of your website that are just another stream of income. They may be things that you actually keep in inventory. They may be your own product line, or they may be like affiliate relationships, and that's one form of a partnership where you can partner up with a company like Banyan or Maharishi or John Juilliard's Life Spa, etc., etc., and you can recommend their products and earn some passive income each time that those products are sold or the clients buy those products. You can also buy products, wholesale, and you can retail them. So this is a different way that basically it's another stream of income, and it's a way that you're leveraging your time and your energy, because money is coming in without you, needing to spend time for that money to come in. Now, the type of product that I really like the best, though, is this category of information products. So, for example, once you have a niche and you have a private practice program, that you walk people through, and over time you evolve that into a group program where you're working with people in a group, well, that is now just really suitable for being able to transform into an actual information product, like a course, like an online training, like something that's going to be a program that people can go through step by step, that doesn't require any of your direct time once it's created. So this might be something like a membership site. It can be, again, an online program with videos and training exercises and worksheets and things people are going through, things you're having them do. But I love online programs for practitioners because once it's built and it's created and you have your system set up, it's a totally passive form of income. And, totally passive in the sense that there are always technical things to work out. There's always, some element of customer service. There's always something to do. But it's an incredible leverage strategy for increasing freeing up your time, increasing your income, and also increasing your impact, like being able to reach more people, affect more people in your market. So I like that a lot. And then this final idea is around partnerships. So I mentioned affiliate relationships. That's one form of a partnership. But another way to look at it is, with your local practice, looking in your community, who else is focused on your target market? Are there retail stores? Are there other service businesses? What kind of referral relationships could you create? What kind of joint programs can you create? What kind of like shared mission or vision or movement could you even create in your community? And again, that becomes something that's a lot of fun to explore once you have a really specific market that you're focused on serving, because likely partners for you just start to light up like neon lights. Once you know really clearly what you're doing, you can see how what other people are doing, could fit in or not to what you're doing. And when if you have like a complementary product or service partner, then you can make referrals or recommendations over to that person or that product or that service. And again, you can earn referrals. It could just be mutual goodwill, but partnerships is a great way to leverage your business activity as well. So let's look at how these three pieces fit together. I like to think of them as three tiers to your business, where at the top, you've got your one-on-one clients. Obviously, you're going to have, those are going to be the deepest relationship because you're seeing each other one-on-one on like a weekly basis. And obviously, that's going to cost, that investment is going to be a lot more per client. The second are these group programs or building community, building membership. And that's more money per hour, but less cost to the client. So that's the next tier of the business. And finally, your products, and this provides you with leverage. And that obviously gives you the greatest amount of passive income. So these three elements, your one-on-one clients, your group programs, and your products are responsible for the elements of depth in your practice, because your one-on-one clients really are often going to be your greatest ambassadors and the people that are bringing other people in. Your group programs that build a real buzz and community around your practice, and your products, which begin to leverage your time and your money and your energy a lot more. So if you were to look at this as like a coaching salary as an Ayurveda practice, as an example, now this could be any combination of these together, but let's say you've got one-on-one clients, you're working with them for 6-month terms, and typical monthly coaching rates on the low end are going to be like $300 a month. That's going to be really on the low end. And on the higher end, maybe $1,500 a month, but that's certainly not a cap. There's, when it comes to one-on-one clients, depending on your market, depending on the demand for you, there really isn't a cap to your time, because that becomes very valuable, especially as your practice becomes more busy and it's more limited. So let's say you've got a 6-month term there and you're working within that price range. Well, that's $1,800 to $9,000 per month just from your one-on-one clients. Then you've got your group programs, and let's say you've got a 3-month term there. You've got $150 to $2,000 for those 3-month terms. So that's like $50 to $650 a month for each of those. And then you have your information product package. So that might be, a $50 program. It might be a $1,000 program. It's really high end if you put a lot into it. Maybe you couple it with some group coaching, then you could sell that for a lot more. When I first launched the Grow Your Ayurvedic Business program, as an example in this business space, one thing that we did with the information product is we were actually building out websites, and so we were charging a lot more for it at that time. If you're working with somebody in, say again, the weight loss niche, and you're packaging together not just the information, but also products, maybe also like some live events or something like that, then that product package can go way up. So it really just depends what you're putting together, what that range is going to be. So let's see as an example. Let's say you've got 10 one-on-one clients, and you're at that lower end. You're seeing them at like $500 per month. Well, that's $5,000 right there. A lot of practitioners, that's going to be a super satisfying income, and you could stop right there and you'd be happy. But let's say you also have 20 group clients and they're working on that lower end program as well, and they're paying $150 a month. Well, that's another $3,000 leverage there. Then you've got 30 product packages per month. You're selling those at 50. That's $1,500. So any example, again, of these combinations, you might emphasize a lot more of the products in your business. You might emphasize a lot more group programs, seasonal cleanse programs, things that are bringing people together for terms together, or you might emphasize a lot more of the private practice. But in this example, let's say that this is your factor. Well, that's a monthly income of $9,500. That's already a six-figure income per year. So that's a great way to just get a snapshot of that. Even though we didn't get into Ayurveda because we thought like, hey, it's going to be a great business, I'm going to make so much money, that we've happened to stumble across, I think, one of the most awesome business models out there today. There's so little overhead, there's a tremendous amount of flexibility, the work is incredibly rewarding, and you can make a great income. I want to just give a couple of practitioner stories here to give you an idea of, things that may apply to you as well. First was Martha Gesignit, and I wanted to highlight her because a lot of practitioners are going from, full-time work in other industries, other careers, and they'd like to make the transition, but their current job, pays the bills, and it's hard for them to, look at like trading in that consistent paycheck for the uncertainty of their own business. So I think Martha was great because she's an example of somebody who's going from full-time or even overtime nursing hours to rewarding full-time practice, and she did it over time. So she cut out a few of the hours from her work first so she could focus on her practice. She took steps to implement what we've been talking about today. Started to fill in those hours with private clients and to build some confidence that she could really, make a great income with her practice. And then cut out another half so that she went to part-time with her nursing and part-time with her practice, filled in that, and then was able to drop the nursing altogether and just focus full-time on her practice. Now, full-time was also not 40 hours a week, but a lot more flexibility. So full-time is whatever you want it to be. Full-time in the work world, is a 9 to 5, but full-time in your practice is however you define it. And then I want to highlight Karin as well because I say her quote here, warning too many clients, because she, hopped right in and got busy with the sales sadhana and started enrolling everybody she was talking to, and then realized that, it seemed like a far off idea, this idea that she could actually have too full a schedule, too many clients. But then it started to make sense to her why I'd been talking about leverage and why group programs and information products were so appealing to me. Because within the span of just a few weeks, she had now this totally booked schedule, and she realized, you know what, I'm overwhelmed with seeing this many clients this consistently. So I think that's a great problem to have because it's always easier to get less clients than it is to get more. But to emphasize that really is the case, that you want to kind of start from the beginning with getting a feeling for, well, what do you want your practice to look like? How much of it how many private clients do you want to see? How much do you want to be working? How much of the time do you want to be talking to people? And how much of the time do you, feel like you'd like to be doing more behind the scenes stuff, building out programs, building out assets for your business? You get to determine what kind of ratio that has, but it should suit you. It should suit your personal style if it's going to be sustainable. All right, so that's basically a summary of the Grow Your Ayurvedic Business program. We started with step 1, which is mapping your market and figuring out who you're going to focus your practice on. Step 2, which is figuring out the steps that person's going to need to take to go from where they are right now specifically to where they want to be. Then we talked about step 3, the sales sadhana system, which is a way to automatically be generating client leads by giving great value up front and then nurturing those leads into getting them automatically in your calendar through your website or through your public talks, and then how to have that sales sadhana conversation, the nature of the conversation that's going to turn a great lead into a long-term committed client and a great income for your practice and great results for them. And we talked about step 4, multiplying your marketing, all the different channels that you can use to get people into that system once that's set up, all the different places that you can focus on advertising or investing your energy once you know who your market is, so that you're not wasting money on advertising that's not going to pay you back. And then step 5, the leverage strategies, the group programs, the products, the information products, the partnerships. And if you're really serious about building your practice, then you're going to want to give your attention to the Grow Your Ayurvedic Business program, which is both an online course and group coaching. So it's a series of online training videos that are set up within a membership site that are going to take you through each of these steps with step-by-step video trainings and MP3 downloads, so like audio versions of each of the trainings, so that you can listen to them in the car or off your iPad, your iPhone. A textbook that is going to have all the modules in them and all of, homework for each module, and the implementation homework that goes with each of those, as well as a bunch of really cool bonus programs. And a members-only Facebook group, a place where we come and you can connect with other students, other practitioners in the program, but also the main place where you can leave your questions, I can respond to them, and I can cover them on the weekly group coaching calls. So in this program, you're going to learn how to consciously design your ideal schedule and reduce or eliminate distraction and interruption. You're going to focus your practice on your ideal niche and become known as an expert in your market. You're going to build valuable content and programs and effectively coach your clients in committed programs for long-term sustainable results with their health. You're going to use an automated business system for generating targeted leads and consistently enrolling committed clients. You're going to create free and paid marketing and advertising campaigns that generate a high return on modest investments of your time and energy. And you're going to leverage your business activity with group programs, products, and partnerships for increased impact, income, and time freedom. And, of course, much more, because there's always more that you get from a program like this. There's just so much to get. There's so much transformation. There's so much potential. It's really such an inspiring process to be a part of. I'm stoked on it, and I hope that if you're serious about it, you're really excited about this as well. So let's go through the program modules and what we're going to cover. First is a welcome and getting started area, and in that section we have sessions on better health, financial security, great relationships, and spiritual freedom, how to really focus on all of those in your schedule, how to guarantee your results, how to do more of what you love and less of what you don't, how to make use of the members-only Facebook group, and then in step 1, mapping your market, we're going to cover Ayurveda awareness and niche markets. We're going to talk to you about how to research your niche, how to find out your niche's specific needs, how to communicate what you do, incredibly powerful. So when somebody asks you the question, what do you do? You're no longer saying, I'm an Ayurveda practitioner. You ever heard of Ayurveda? And getting kind of an awkward tilt of the head. Instead, you're going to be able to answer that question with a very succinct answer. It's going to say, I help this specific group of people get these specific results. Do you know anyone who could use that support? That one change makes it so that you start generating referrals everywhere you go, everyone you talk to. I'm going to show you about succeeding in poor economies. If you've ever thought how are people going to pay for this or afford this where I live? I'm going to show you how to overcome those hurdles. I'm going to show you about how to understand and communicate your qualifications. And your qualifications have a lot less to do with your education and a lot more to do with your ability to walk people on a particular path or the path that you've already walked on. Step 2, committed client formula. We're going to talk about your behavioral theory of change, this idea of the specific steps that people are going to need to take to get where they want to get, and turning that into a program. How to design content using a framework. There's a particular framework I like to teach that will make it so each time that you're going to build a module, you're going to write a blog post, you're going to design a free public talk, you're basically going to be able to go through this template and you're going to build something that's awesome that connects to the different ways that people learn and the different things that motivate people to take action, so that each time you're going to get the desired result that you want, which is to generate more leads and get more people into your calendar. I'm going to talk in detail about the integral Ayurvedic coaching system. And in step 3, the sales sadhana system, we're going to get into the science of client motivation and enrollment. We're going to talk about sales sadhana theory and practice. We're going to get into the specifics of each of those questions you want to ask and why, and the order to ask them in, and how to transition from asking questions to providing your program as the solution. We're going to talk about lead generation, your website's job, how to get it to do that for you. Step 4, multiply your marketing. We're going to talk about client testimonials and referrals, how to get them, how to use them. We're going to talk about creating advertisements that get a great response. We're going to talk about how to use just even your email signature to generate like awareness around your business and referrals. How to use client testimonials and referrals, again, for not just how to collect them, but how to use them to generate social proof and get people excited about what you're doing. We're going to talk about how to do a free session offer. We're going to talk about how to do a deals strategy with different deals companies that are out there. How to put together your business card and your brochure. How to get public relations, how to do public relations and get free media coverage. We'll talk about how to optimize social media for leads. And we'll talk about starting and managing pay-per-click campaigns, which is actually something that is a tremendous advantage in our time and place. We have something like Facebook that has 1 billion, a seventh of the planet, is that right? 1 billion users every day, and incredible demographic targeting, so you can find exactly the person that you're searching for, and you can put your specific message in front of the people who are already looking for it. We'll talk a little bit about YouTube if you get into the idea of making videos and how to use those to build your business. And finally, step 5, advanced profit growth. We're going to cover finding prospective partners and building relationships, group program formats, mission and vision statements, and something I'm really excited about is rolling out, launching programs with our Ayurveda practitioners in our program. So this is going to be awesome. If tech has ever been an issue for you, if some of the marketing stuff is overwhelming for you, I want to walk you through it. Basically, once you have a good niche focus and you have an understanding and you've worked with some private clients, and you feel like, hey, I've got a good program here, then let's turn it into an online program. I can certainly show you how to do that for yourself, or we can do it together. You can launch it under the Everyday Ayurveda brand and platform and have a consistent source of sales and royalties, and of course referrals into your private or group programs with you. So I'm really excited about that option because I think it's the next level of how we can work together once you've got some foundation in place. So this is really the very best deal I've ever given on this program. I think it's kind of crazy. Other than that, I really want to make sure that if you're at all serious about this, that you have your best shot of getting into it, and that I've got my best shot of giving you my best and helping you get where you want to get and building a thriving professional practice. I think it feels really good for me, but it's it's really like a pleasure to see it happen for practitioners. And I think most importantly, it's something I feel good about because it makes this accessible to the Ayurveda community so that we can really grow and move our profession forward. So when I first launched this program, again, I included a lot in it, but it was a $2,000 price point. And we got a lot of practitioners in at that point as well. And I still think it was incredible value for what they got. But now the normal tuition is $197, which is great. Incredibly easy to get, incredibly affordable, but still I acknowledge can be a hurdle for people, especially if you're not yet, that confident about making your practice happen. Well, if that happens to be for you, I want to make it like incredibly easy to get in. The normal monthly coaching is also $47 a month. So you would have a normal tuition of a one-time payment of $197, and then a monthly coaching cost of $47 a month. But instead, we're going to do it. We're going to have you get started with everything for just $1. So in other words, you're going to click the link for the offer here, and it's going to take you to a page where you can get started with everything for just $1 for the first 30 days. We're going to waive the normal program tuition altogether of the $197, and then after the end of that first 30 days, stick around for the normal $47 a month coaching, and basically it's risk-free. You can cancel anytime. If at any point you feel like you're just not getting the value that you want out of it, or it's not what you're looking for, or you've decided that you really just don't want to do a practice after all and you've got other priorities, that's fine. There's no obligation, you're not on the hook, and really all the risk is on me. So go ahead and click this unbelievable, awesome offer that I'm delighted to be able to pass along to you here. Get started for the next 30 days for $1, and then transition into just the normal monthly coaching fee of $47, but skip off the normal tuition altogether. Again, this is really the only time I'm offering this. This offer will go away, and otherwise you're going to have to get into the normal monthly coaching or get the full normal tuition if you just want to get the program alone without that. All right, so that wraps it up, and now's the time to go ahead and take action. Again, if this is important to you, I feel like there's nothing else that even remotely compares with the depth of this program, with how much it understands the unique position that Ayurvedic practitioners are in, and it's designed by somebody who's actually been through this. I understand where you're at, where you're going through, and I know the potential and possibility for you, and I want you to get that. So go ahead and click it right now, get started risk-free, and I'm going to look forward with working with you and taking you as far as you want to go.